Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Regenerative Business Podcast. This is the first episode I'm recording of the year. It's not going to come out at the first of the year, but it's you should feel some fresh 2025 energy in here. And today I have special guest Cecily Saylor on, and she is a tarot reader, writer, and coach who supports and mentors creative spirits to develop a more mystical and spiritual relationship with their creativity, themselves, and the movement of life. Cecily is the founder of Typewriter Tarot, a project that supports creative spirits by offering spaces of magic, creativity, inspiration, and community. She is the creator of the workbook Tarot for Creative Spirits, which includes journaling and creative prompts for every card in the tarot, and hosts the podcast Your Creative and Magical Life. Before she became a full-time mystic, Cecily earned an MFA in creative writing and worked in journalism and creative arts nonprofits. When she's not creating for Typewriter Tarot, she's playing with her two dogs, Queenie and Lila, looking at birds, seeking out ghost stories, and doing her best to make the world a better place. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're here. I've only recorded one other tarot episode years ago, and it did so well, and I haven't done anything since because I'm tarot isn't a part of my daily practice, so I actually don't have that much to say about it, but I know that people who are listening are super duper into it. And I actually got your book, Tarot for Creative Spirits, a journey of self-discovery through tarot. And I'm hoping with this discussion, I like fully dive with both feet into the wild, wild world of tarot.
Yeah, you're like hella witchy. So it's been a little surprising that it's not all up in your mix, but maybe to come. And great that you've been super magical without it. So
Oh, interesting that you consider it being like a foundational or basic requirement for witchcraft.
I don't. I mean, obviously, there are many modalities we can combine as we like. So that's the great thing about
Mhm.
witchcraft and magic.
Yeah, my deepest dive into it was with, I forget the name of the deck that Aleister Crowley was collaborated it with.
The Thoth deck.
The Thoth deck, yeah, and doing more like meditative connection with it, but that was more of like connecting in with the archetypal astrology and Kabbalah of it more so than using it in like the traditional connection with intuition. But anyways, the reason why I invited you on was really because of a post you'd written about how tarot supports intuitive connection and creativity. And I think it's such an epic idea that I want to explore together and hear more of your genius around. But I thought we could start with your own story of your 15-year-old tarot deck.
Yeah. So, as I told Sam before we started, I had a deck. I had the Smith Waite tarot deck, the yellow box with the magician card on the front for like 15 years that just like sat around. I don't even remember where I got it. And I think that like some part of me was always interested in the mystical, the esoteric, but I didn't really have any, no one in my family was super witch. I mean, I like my mom and my grandmother are witchy in like a nature witch kind of way, but they wouldn't call themselves that. And so I just didn't know what to do with it. I thought you had to be psychic or have, yeah, like a witch grandma. And I am neither. I don't have those. But I guess I bought it. I don't know. Somehow it would make sense. But anyway, it sat around for a long time. And then I went through like a big life turnaround. I quit drinking after struggling for a long time with alcohol addiction and started to really recover and gain a sense of spirituality and get my creativity back, get a lot of things back, actually. So, about a year after I quit drinking, quite magically, a deck came into my home that I still again didn't know what to do with. And I was like, I think my stepsister would really like this deck. And there was this process of like purging stuff. So I took it to her. We did a little reading with it just for fun using a spread in the guidebook. It was a zombie themed deck. And because I know her really well, like the cards that turned up, I was like, oh shit, this is like right on. It was blowing my mind just how accurate the cards seemed to be without me really knowing much about the cards. And so because of like the kind of journey of recovery I'd been on and how much I felt helped by different people in that process, I was starting to feel, as is the case with many people, this desire to pass it on or to do, to do more, not just like recover for myself, but help other people see that transformation is possible. Cause I had been someone who was like, my life is a dead end and there is like no good things. Well, like it was very bleak inside. So yeah, having this transformation, I wanted to be able to share that or like spread the gospel that like you can feel joy again. So I had thought about going to school for therapy and I was already 38. I already had a lot of student debt and then this tarot deck came through and I had this experience and I was like this is it. And so I was like I'm going to learn this. I'm going to do something with this. And also strangely, insanely, maybe I was like I'm going to start a side hustle based on tarot before I've actually learned how to use it. So I didn't start taking money like right away, but I was like, I'm getting my name and like my Instagram handle. I waited maybe a month, wasn't like instantly. Anyway, so that's how it started. And I kind of learned just kind of doing the good student thing. Like I got a journal and dedicated a page each to each of the cards and I would read books and listen to podcasts and start like making my own little encyclopedia until I started kind of practicing more with them, just doing something a little more intuitive. And I never finished the encyclopedia I started and I realized like there are other ways to learn and that's how I teach other people how to learn, not from the studious A+ student point of view. But yeah, that's the short of it. The medium length
So,
version.
so how do you recommend people who are like, let's say someone is listening and they're curious about tarot, but they never really got into it. How do you, or maybe they like have a deck and they never really got into it. How do you recommend they learn it? And like, do they have to do the like perfect student route? Like, how do you actually, like, at what point do you actually get good at reading tarot? There's probably no getting good, but, or that's a lie. I don't think, anyways.
Yeah, it's a journey and it's a relationship. I would also say like, you want to have a deck that you feel some connection to. And I would recommend just pulling a card daily if you can, if you have the time or the inclination, and just sitting with the card for 5 minutes or so. Definitely spend a minute, a full long minute, like looking at the card and noticing how you feel, noticing what comes up. Like, not every image is going to elicit something very clear for you, but just really looking closely. A lot of people will just go straight to the guidebook and get the answer. And they're like, I feel this, or I don't feel this, or this book is telling me this thing about myself that I don't actually feel super good about. And then people may stop pulling cards at that point. So I say leave the book out of it for a while and have your own experience with the card, maybe journal about what you think, what you feel, and live out your day. And then maybe at the end of the day, you can, Google search, see some things about the card and see like what connections you personally experienced. What, oh, maybe this was about this aspect of the day or this conversation I had or this thing that I'm working on. And then it becomes very personal to you. And that's how the cards really start to stay with you is when you, I think, begin to personalize them. And then you can, just practice, like experiment with reading two cards together. What story might they show? And build from there. But it's gradual, it takes a while, but it's always to me a really accessible and interesting experience. And it if you're going to work with it, it will bring you into this moment of slowing down, getting reflective, really paying attention to the image in front of you, but also internally. And I think we need to do more of that anyway.
I love this because it's this from the inside out perspective of learning versus this is what this card means. This is what they say the card means. This is what I need to learn the card to mean type thing.
Yeah, we have so much external input in our lives, and we're so externally directed that I think a lot of that's on purpose that we really don't, or many of us don't, and I certainly didn't for so long, have a strong connection to our intuition or even know, oh, that's a nice word, but like, how do I know when it's talking to me? How does it talk to me? And so just having some practice where you start to look inward first can really shift a lot of things over time.
Mm. It kind of reminds me of when during the same time period, I was like pulling the Thoth deck. I would write what I could remember in my dreams and then look up where the planets were and like what zodiac signs all the planets were. And it was trippy. Wherever the moon was, that would be like the person in my life I would dream about. Like, okay, when the moon is in Aries, I would dream of this like one childhood friend who like I would then be like, oh wow, she did have an Aries birthday. It was like such a weird subconscious connection that my mind would be communicating with me with.
I love that. Yeah, it's I mean, tarot for me was the gateway drug. And then you can start to notice these other connections, and intuition can show up for people in so many different ways, whether it's like images in your dream, phrases you wake up with, sensations in the body. Like I'll get goosebumps when I'm reading for someone and something I'm saying or something they're saying is like really important to the matter we're discussing. Numbers, astrology, planets, like what's happening in nature, the way events are showing up, like all of that can be different ways of receiving intuitive guidance, I think.
So, how does back to the original topic of the day is how does tarot support intuitive connection and creativity?
Yeah, I see tarot as a ancient technology that is very affordable, very portable, that allows you to communicate with, you can conceive of this in different ways, either your unconscious self, your highest self, your intuition, spirits, ancestors, you know, other teachers in the realms beyond, however you want to think about that. And so the cards often, in my experience and in the experience of a lot of people I teach or who are part of the community I host, is that the cards will show something you already feel, usually, and they will also add something else, like a new possibility. And we spend so much time like thinking, trying to make rational decisions or practical decisions or just using our brains for everything. And so much of that is like caught up in language, and language is limited. Like language is beautiful. I'm a writer, like I love it, but it's also only one way of understanding. And so my experience looking at a card, it'll often hit me like somewhere much lower than my brain, like in my gut, in my core. And there's a kind of visceral message that comes through that you can just feel and sense that you don't have to think a lot about. And the brain will come on and start doing some interpretation or storytelling. And that's where we process a lot of things anyway. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think getting out of the head, this kind of circumventing of the mind, communicating through image and through archetype. And the thing with tarot, like as Carl Jung explored extensively, is like there are these archetypes that humans understand across time, and tarot is working in those archetypes. So there's some recognition that happens, and it's just a different kind of language we can learn. And so the more that I worked with tarot, it would validate, like, okay, so I've been working in creative arts nonprofits for 10 years, and this sense that, like, oh, tarot is the thing I've been looking for.
Mm.
And my brain is like, no one knows you as a tarot reader. You've never talked about tarot. You've never given a tarot reading to anyone you know. None of your friends are into it. What's going to happen when you're like, hey, I'm a tarot reader now? They're all going to be like, have you lost it? Okay, you quit drinking and now you're one of these people who's like gone off the deep end. So that's my brain. But the cards are like, yeah, let's try this. Let's do this. And so you keep kind of following that feeling that your brain would not really permit you to do. So over time, it's just like a workout. It's like you've heard and felt your intuition more and more, and it just starts to expand from there.
It's having me think about with planetary magic and you're working with certain planetary deities, it's one of the first things I learned with that. It tends to be the most effective when you actually are building relationships with like you have like a go-to planetary deity that you are in communion with, you're building a relationship with, and it doesn't matter that if you're working with the moon, it doesn't matter that Jupiter is all about money. You would go and talk with the moon about your money problems and ask it because you've built this relationship. It's kind of making me think of what you're talking about with a deck. It's at the beginning there's not that much of a relationship. You're learning how to communicate with each other, but over time it's actually something that can almost have your best interests in mind.
Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. It's funny because I'm still internally reacting to you being surprised that I haven't done tarot. And it's kind of been like in the back of my mind since the beginning of this conversation. I'm like, why is it that I never got into tarot? And I'm like recognizing that a part of me is like, I have a judgment that you're like disempowering yourself by like giving power away to the deck to give you answers. So
Mm.
what do you have to in response to that?
Yeah, this is reminding me, I'm trying to make sure these things are connected. Yeah, so like if you're in some dilemma or situation and you're like, what do I do? How do I handle this? Like, I have so many feelings about this. Like, we'll journal about it, right? And I guess, everything you put in the journal came from you, but it's also this kind of external witnessing of yourself. Or we go to a therapist to get help, like dealing with something. And yeah, the therapist isn't hopefully like, you need to do this, this, and this. But they're this external kind of mirror, the journal is, or the therapist is. And I think tarot is the same thing, like, because they're not like super direct. They're not going to be like, you're being you're being too bold and aggressive, or you need to choose this over that. Like, there, you can look at them and interpret them a lot of different ways. And I had someone in my community bring up in one of our gatherings that I guess she was telling someone she knew that she had pulled cards, and this person was like, well, aren't you just making it up? Like, don't you just make up what you want to hear? Which is sort of like the opposite of that, where it's like, I guess you're going for external
Uh-huh.
information, but then you just interpret it how you want.
Uh-huh.
And my response to that was like, yeah, you're making it up, but like, we're making up everything. Like, we're interpreting and making up, like, whether we're looking at tarot or not, we're making up stories in our mind,
Mhm.
and we're making up the rationalizations for whatever decisions we want to make. And so, and that's the beauty of it as well, is that it's a creative process. Like, I don't want to go to church where someone's like, here's the way it is, here's how the world works, this is spirituality, this is how you need to behave in order to be moral or good or whatever. Then I have zero agency. But this more eclectic version of spirituality that I've found my way to is this, there's this creative process of like me visioning and seeing things a certain way and bringing in what I can't control, which is like numbers that show up, or like this bird that landed on this limb right as I was thinking about this thing. And yeah, I'm going to make up whatever I want about that, but it feels empowering actually. And I don't think I'm just like always blowing smoke up my ass, or, in some like narcissistic, like, this serves my interests and like what I need to believe, so if you have
Well,
like a
see, I
healthy.
like I know I've used it almost in the way you're calling narcissistic. 'Cause I'm like, oh, like if I give two options and I'm disappointed by what it says, I know what my choice should be. It's the one that I'm not disappointed by. So I was like, you flip a coin and you're like in the flip, you know which answer you want a lot of times.
Yes. Yeah, that's so funny. I did a reading for this woman at a party, and she wanted to know if she and her husband were going to stay together. And I was like, "Do you want to stay together?" And they had been going to therapy, and like they'd been together a long time and things were, better. And she's like, "Yeah, but I just wonder like if there's another relationship out there for me." And was like, well, there could be. It's like, kind of up to you. And so, like, I read the cards that she had, and she was like, yeah, but like, is there another relationship? Like, am I leaving him? And I was like, do you want me to pull another card? And she said, yes. So I did. And again, it was like, and the cards will do that. Sometimes they're like, you need to decide. Like, it's up to you. We're not going to give you the answer here because they really, I think they do want you to be more cohesive in your own like ecosystem of self-determination. And so then she's like, yeah, but like, should I leave him? Am I going to leave him? And I was like, do you want me to pull another card? And she said, yes. So I pulled one. And in this deck, it was the Chariot. And it showed a woman in a convertible driving away from the viewer. And I was like, well, she's looks like she's leaving. What do you think? She's like, well, I guess I get to choose. Like, yeah, that's what I said. So
I feel like that would be me in a reading. I'm like, I feel like that's what's going on internally in my head is like, but what about this? So wait,
yeah,
another thing just to continue to be a devil's advocate.
sure.
I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, because you were kind of talking about the self-determination aspect of it. It's like, as someone who has done so much mindset work and shadow work and has witnessed how reality can shift when you shift on the inside, there's a part that's like, why go to the cards when I could just go to like shadow work or something and just shift things externally? I feel like this is a bad
Yeah.
example, but I'm like, there's something with the like, a part of me wants to be like, from what you're saying is like, okay, if I view the cards as like this extension of my truth, like I feel like that's the way my mind could be like, yeah, well, I just want to like excavate my truth, but then like, what if my truth changes by doing like other magical processes?
Yeah, it sounds like you, I don't know, like maybe you want to have a contained or controlled sense of like what's gonna go on in the, but I also know you're very open to mystery and like, discovering things that come up. So, I mean, on one sense, it's just like a preference. Like, does
Mm-hmm.
it serve you? Do you like it? Is it
Hmm.
interesting? Is it fun? Is it effective? Or does it just make you more anxious and like unsure of what to do? And I don't use the cards for, I do use them to make big decisions, or I will consult them, I would say, to make bigger decisions. But often it's like, okay, it's a full moon, it's a new moon. What are this is kind of like a check-in of like where things stand or where things can be headed or what I can put more energy into or put less energy into. And when I pull daily, it's a little bit of just like, let me think about the day for a second and see, what feels true here or what the cards are asking me to see about the experience I've just had for the sake of like noticing and sort of integrating and like watching my own growth or shifting something. Or sometimes it's an invitation, a nudge, a little pep talk of like, can we be a little more courageous here? Can we feel more of the feelings here? Something like that.
So I feel like you're sparking so many different directions for my mind to go in with all of this, which is so fun for me at least.
Okay, good.
Like one thing I'm thinking about is how I feel like I've come to tarot cards in a like a shitty friend way of like I'm coming to you when I want something from you, and like either there needs to be a shift in habit around that of like just coming consistently, or instead being the like we're always going to be friends, it doesn't matter when I come to you, so like and take kind of taking the judgment out of it. But okay, that was just an aha moment that you kind of gave me. But let's say coming to on the topic of creativity and using tarot to just support creativity, how what are different ways that you personally or with clients recommend using tarot for like a book writing process or even like writing daily on social media or like having this consistent writing practice that is so much a part of entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So having wanted to be a writer most of my life and doing different writerly things, we could say, and also doing a MFA in creative writing, when I found tarot, I was like, oh, this is a storytelling device. Like we make stories when we look at it. That's how we understand it. And so just having like my in my creative writing program, I was a fiction concentration and didn't do like I'm not the best fiction writer because it's really hard for me to invent the whole thing. And so I was like, well, this is a great way to kind of imagine content or to understand your characters more deeply. Like one thing with like a fictional character is you really need to understand like these psychological layers. And so as I got better, I created this like 10 card. I don't know if it's maybe it's a 12 card spread for like your main character. And
Oh,
so it shows
cool.
you like their deep past, their recent past, like what's in their conscious mind, what's in their subconscious mind, what's challenging them, all these things. So when you look at it, it actually can give you like a whole plot line once you see this full character. And then there's so many smaller ways you can use it where it's like in your business, let's say for a social media post, like what does my audience want to hear today? Or like how can I serve them today? And then you get Five of Cups, which is a card of like disappointment, sadness, rejection, something like that. So, not like the funnest topic, but maybe there are people out there who are feeling
What they need.
disappointed, sad, and rejected. And you have something to say about how to move through that or how to turn that into something else. So, you can also use it like you're really great. You have these great meditations for like connecting with the soul of your business or your ideal client. And tarot would be another way to inquire or explore, what are my ideal clients like and pull three cards or like what are they needing? What problems do I solve for them? Or like, what's the message from the soul of my business this week? If you do like a Monday meeting with the soul of your business, you can
I
pull
love
some
that.
cards, you can do the meditation, you can combine it all. So it really can help just spark an idea that wasn't already there or take your brain to something that it wasn't going to manufacture, right that moment. It probably could have thought of it later. But, you mentioned Chat GPT before we got on the call, and it's like, what if you use tarot instead of Chat GPT to give you some ideas and possibilities and directions?
Mm. I also imagine with when you were giving the social media post examples, if you have like an idea for a post, you could pull a card to kind of decide on like tone even because like you could say like five mistakes you're making about X, Y, and Z in a bitchy like dominatrix or like a like gentle, loving friend way and like how do they actually need to receive it today? I think that would be really fun. But and I also imagine even with nonfiction writing, how you were talking about the plot line of as someone trying to write a book right now, it's like there's a plot line you're still trying to go through for a nonfiction book. And so I'm
Yeah.
imagining Tara, I definitely wanna I want to get your like actual spread for this because I think that would be a great way to procrastic writing
Yes,
and
I'm
spark making
reflecting.
writing easier, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Slow down to speed up.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So on that note, I really wanted uh everyone get your decks. I really was hoping that you could guide us through a spread or just pulling a card because this will come out in February. We're recording mid-January 2025, but this will come out in February 2025. So either like pulling a card or making a spread for 2025 or like even just the month and we can do it together.
Okay. Yeah. I used the spread last night for the Cancer new moon,
Mm.
and it's
Pullman?
five. What's that? Full moon. Thank
I was
you.
like, it was
Thank you.
bright.
It was so beautiful. Yeah, so it's five cards and it looks like a plus sign with a card in the middle and
Okay.
then a card north, south, east, west, kind of top, bottom, right, left. So the card in the center, and this might be a nice spread for any new moon, any full moon, the first of the month. And the first card would go in the center, and that would be
Wait, I'm
like
not
rep.
there yet. I'm not there.
Okay, okay,
We're
sure.
gonna do this guided. I
And
want
one
I'm saging. I have some sage in my office and I'm saging my deck because I haven't used it and I don't even know how long. So I feel like this is a smart idea.
Well, and you were talking about, using it intermittently
Mhm.
and maybe the deck gets resentful or feels neglected.
Mhm.
And I don't know that that's true. I mean, I think each deck has its own personality. So maybe some of them get upset with you. But a good way, if that's the case, is to like hold your deck and sort of be like, hello, friend. I know it's been a minute. I've been really busy. I've been doing lots of shadow work. I'm I'm getting curious about you again. I hope we can chat. Just give it a little love. Like when you haven't called your friend in a long time and you're like, hey, I've been
Love
like
you.
missing. Yes, exactly. So
Okay. So, do you, and when you pull cards, do you, and I'm using, if, for the people who are curious, do you have a favorite deck? I really like the Wild Unknown tarot deck. I have a bunch of decks from like people sending me decks, and like, I honestly, like, they're so beautiful. I just buy them because I
Yeah.
think they're beautiful. But I always
Yeah.
come back to this one because like, I feel the most connection to it. Do you have a favorite deck?
Right now, I'm using the Gentle Tarot a lot, which is very nature based from an indigenous creator. There's another deck called the Many Queens Tarot, which is like pen and ink drawing, really like gender transgressive kind of, and like really interesting. Yeah, so I kind of cycle through and, move on to other ones and come back around to some periodically.
I shuffled this. Am I taking it from the top or somewhere in between, or what are opinions here?
This is another space where intuitively you get to choose and you get to do it how you want. So you can cut the deck and pull a card out. You can decide you're going to take them from the top. You can do it different ways for different cards. You can make a fan and like run your hand over it. So I've done it different ways and up same. I kind of cycle through different procedures, I guess. And that's kind of the great thing about it is like it's your practice. So you get to do what you want.
Okay, I'm pulling for my 2025. We're gonna do
Okay.
that's my intention for this little pull right here.
All
And so
right.
I'm doing one in the middle first.
Yeah, this one's for the heart, kind of like the heart of the matter, the beating heart of the year. You have the strength card. Beautiful.
Which one
All
am I
that
pulling
shadow
for?
work. So then we'll go to the top, and this would represent something you're reaching for, aiming for. Eight of Cups.
Yeah, and seven.
Seven. Okay. No, the Seven of Cups
I don't know.
it's sometimes, can I see it again?
Oh yeah. Should I pull them all before we interpret?
Yeah, let's, sure.
Okay,
I don't,
which way? Okay, so I'm doing middle, I'm doing top, and then do I go bottom or do I go clockwise?
so it wouldn't totally matter, but one thing I will say is like have in your mind as you're pulling the card which thing you're pulling for. So you're kind of clear. You're like, okay, show me a card for the heart of the year, right? And then we've just done show me the card for like what I'm reaching for. Okay. And then why don't we look at that one? Let's keep going one by one. So you
Okay.
had Seven of Cups. Can I see?
So, the middle one was the strength card, which was a lion with an infinity and its third eye holding a rose in its mouth. I think it's a very beautiful card. I don't know what it means, but it looks positive.
Oh,
This one is there's a mountain, there's seven cups with three on each side. One is up the one in the middle is upside down, and there's a sun at the bottom and then a moon at the top.
yeah. So for the strength card, let me just say, like, that's a card of like deepening self-love, a kind of like gentle courage,
Mm.
the way you would approach a wild animal to make, if you wanted to make a connection, would be
With a
gently,
rose in its
tenderly.
mouth.
Yes. With a lot of love, like in the vibration of love and not the vibration of fear. So I could see this card kind of coming out of shadow work, like you really facing hard things, like integrating parts of yourself, like bringing more love into the fullness of you. And so that may be work you continue or work that's like
Well, I
guiding
already know
you.
what this is about. So
Do you want to say?
yeah, I feel like towards the end of 2024, the message coming into 2025 was really clear of like, and it's work I've already done, of course. Like the work that we just deepen and deepen is like I get to do it my way. I get to make things, I get to design it around me. I get to like things that are easy for me, do more of that. And like I don't have to do anything that doesn't feel good. And at some parts it just that feels like such a big thing for 2025 and it was for 2024, but like going like next stage deeper, like even more like extreme. That
Yeah,
feels
that's
like this one,
perfect.
right in the heart.
Yeah, the courage to like love yourself so much that
Mhm.
you'll move from your own direction
Mhm.
versus what everyone else thinks is a good idea.
Mhm.
And 2024 numeral was the strength year for everyone. So
Oh.
like you did a lot of that and you're carrying that into this, as you said.
Mhm.
So then what you're reaching for, you have Seven of Cups, and this can be a card of like possibility and not fully knowing yet which thing you want to choose. I think you can see it in that card because like the moon is on the bottom and the sun is on the top. And it's kind of like, or
So,
the sun is on the bottom
uh-huh.
and the moon is on the top.
Uh-huh.
So they're kind of like, which one is the sky
Which
and
way
which
is
one
up?
both are the sky. There's a mountain range in between them, so it's a
Uh-huh.
little bit of like a disorienting card, like what's
Oh,
the
I
best
see that.
choice,
Uh-huh.
is this choice actually what it seems? So it'll be interesting to see what your other cards are, but there may be something about like, what do
Um,
I
my lesson from my Saturn return was like after I didn't know it, obviously I didn't know it until the end of it, but like the big lesson for me was like I torture myself through indecision. So when I hear you say that, I'm like, that's what's ringing towards me. It's like there'll be moments
breakthroughs?
of indecision being proposed to me, and I have the choice to get out of it or not. But it's on
Yes.
me.
Yeah, like will you can how of course the universe always does this, like when you're doing work on yourself, then it's like, okay, let's practice. Here's a scenario. And you're like, oh, really? And so it's like, how can I make a choice, stick with my choice, feel good about my choice, make this choice work for me? So kind of more breakthroughs around that
Mhm.
feels right. Okay, so let's do the card on the bottom, which is something you're releasing. Kind of think about that like north node, south node of astrology.
Now that I know what I'm pulling for, I feel like so much more pressure of picking the right card versus before I was just kind of like dee, 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 dee. Daughter of Pentacles, which is a deer with a rainbow over it.
And I think that one would be the Page of Pentacles in many other decks.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a card of like a young mystic, like asking lots of big questions, really curious about the world, the cosmos. The pentacles are an earth element. So kind of like, what's the magic that makes the garden grow kind of question. And so maybe you're kind of graduating from some of that into like a higher level of mastery with your mysticism, your interpretation of magic, the way that you make magic, the way that you make magic working with the earth.
Mhm.
Like there's the page is sort of the
Shit.
beginner of the mastery development. So you're maybe like when we're releasing something, sometimes people get like last night I got the Empress there and it's like no one wants to let go of the Empress. But I just took it like, okay, I just went through this big creative phase and I'm ready to kind of like keep working the creations versus like creating more.
Mhm.
So sometimes releasing is like graduating from
Mhm.
like you worked with that, now you're ready to kind of like apply it or do new level
Mhm.
something.
Just from not knowing anything about the Daughter of Pentacles, but just from the picture, thought is like there's a bit of naive optimism here too. Like that's what I see in the card. So it's like kind of letting
See,
that go. Hmm.
yeah, and like just what you did there by looking at the image,
Hmm.
your understanding of a doe, the way the animal is looking, that rain, you just
Hmm.
turned the image into this message.
Hmm.
And that's what I love to see people do. It's really like look at the art. Yes. She flips her hair triumphantly.
Okay, what am I doing next?
So to the left is a card for something to support you, something that's supporting you.
Mother of Swords. Is this boundaries? This looks
Mm,
like boundaries to
yes,
me.
yes, yes, yes. Queen of Swords, boundaries, clear communication. Yeah, clear thought, bold stance, like hands on hips. And that pairs nicely with your Seven of Cups and like working with indecision. The
Mhm.
the Queen of Cups would be like, here's my choice. Let me let everybody know. This means that like it needs to go like this, or this if you want to be involved. So just like creating those strong containers for things and kind of standing firmly in your territory. and not being shy about communicating that.
Oh, easy.
Yeah. So easy in the patriarchy. Super, super.
Okay, what's our next one? What's this right space?
The right one is inspiration, source of inspiration.
Cool. Just
Yay.
like in this deck is a it looks like a baby duckling. Or I guess it'd probably be a baby swan because there's swans in this deck.
Yeah, very
Like maybe some
fluffy.
apple blossoms.
Okay. And a nice yellow orangey sunrise kind of
Oh, sunrise, yeah. Hmm.
vibe. Yeah.
That's my
So,
inspiration. My
what do you
interpretation of
see?
that is like, or when I just, I mean, I feel like the Fool is like the card a lot of people know, and so with my that knowing that too, it's my mind immediately goes towards seeking inspiration outside of my expertise and outside of my industry. It's
Mm,
like places where I'm not an expert, places where I'm not familiar with things, that's where I should seek out inspiration. That's
yeah,
my interpretation.
I love that. I think that's great. Yes, I support it. The Fool's like a beginner in the sense that they're taking a new direction and they don't know where they're going and they're not really attached to the destination or the outcome, but most interested in the journey. They're the like protagonist of the tarot that will meet all the other archetypes and be shaped by them and define themselves through those encounters. So yeah,
Yeah.
just really getting
Are
to
you my
do
mother? Like that's what I think. Like that's what I'm like. They go and meet everyone.
yeah, yeah. It kind of aligns really nicely with like, what do you want to do? What do you want to learn? Where do you feel called to move? Like that strength vibe of doing what you feel like.
So for everyone listening who's pulling cards too, or is planning on pulling cards after they're done driving or later tonight, you're do you recommend going through and getting initial impressions first and then reading interpretations or just kind of sitting with it and meditating with it? I mean,
Yeah, I
everyone definitely take a picture and tag Typewriter Tarot. Are there dots in there on Instagram?
no, no dots.
Just Typewriter Tarot on Instagram and me, obviously, the Dirty Alchemy. Okay.
Yes,
Um,
obviously.
obviously. At what point do they start looking up in their guidebook?
Yeah, I would recommend journaling about the cards,
Mm,
writing down some initial impressions, doing that process of like really looking and maybe even sleep on it a night. I
okay.
also think it's nice after reading to, before you're going to sleep, like I welcome additional insights from my dreams, if that's something you're into. And then the next day, maybe revisit your notes briefly if you want to look at the book. When you look at the book, I would just say take what works for you and ignore the rest. Like sometimes, and the quality of guidebooks varies. Like some are really beautiful and wonderfully written, and some are kind of phoned in or just like, real shortcuts kind of things. So look for a phrase or two, I would say, that really light you up, that feel like, oh yeah, this sees me, I feel seen, I feel called out, whatever, in a good way, and not necessarily try to make your brain connect to everything that the book is saying. Like don't contort yourself toward the guidebook, but take what's there that feels interesting and useful.
I love that. Oh, well, sounds like my year's gonna be great.
Of course it is.
2025. I actually do
Yeah.
love this card so much. I think it's like so
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
beautiful. The strength card. Okay, so we talked about creativity. I need your rundown. It is for the using tarot spreads for book writing, is that like a standard 12-part spread or is that like something special that you know?
I created it and I offer something called a main character reading where we go through it. Like
Oh,
we do it together and it's a opportunity also to just brainstorm together and look at possibilities, whether you're at the beginning of the process or in the middle of it and you want to kind of, because it's going to show you things you've already been working on, but it'll also add on. And yeah, I taught a series called Tarot for Your Novel, which
I
is available in
feel
my
like I should have already
community.
known this. This is so cool.
Really fun. So we use tarot for plot, we use tarot for structure, we use tarot for the character, we use tarot for the worlds of your story, we use tarot for the themes. And yeah, all of that's in my community, the Creative Magic Collective. So I really like to play with like these intersections of tarot creativity. Sometimes I'm teaching just on like things inside the tarot, like leadership with the queens and kings, and like how can we explore that and then do a spread for ourselves. Or sometimes it's kind of like these intersectional explorations.
Oh, that's so cool. So, for people who are like, okay, tell me more about all this tarot stuff, and where do they find you online? What are the good next steps for people if they want to do like one tiny little step versus going all in?
Yeah. So, first tiny little step might be to go to my website, typewritertarot.com, and sign up for the newsletter. And you will get the first three prompts from my tarot workbook. So, that's the Fool and the Magician and the High Priestess. And that workbook I created just so people can begin to build those personal connections with the cards and also use tarot as a portal for self discovery and self growth. And another easy step would be to check out my podcast, Your Creative and Magical Life. And
Mm.
then if you want a reading, I offer readings. Those are on my website. If you're at the beginning of a practice or wherever you are in your practice, if you're looking for more community, I have the Creative Magic Collective, which is like we gather to journal, we gather to create. We have a workshop every month on the mystical or creative arts. So we did a workshop on the Hermit in January. And then I also do one-on-one creativity coaching that has definitely a mystical vibe. So if you're trying to work through some blocks, get through a project, reconnect with your creativity, or if you're running a creative artistic business and need some help like refining, not being burned out, sharing your work. Those are most of the things, I think.
Oh, so good. And you have your book too.
Yes. Yes, the book is there. So if you're ready to learn tarot and you don't want to start an encyclopedia, just grab the journal. It's also illustrated and you can just take your time with it. And it's kind of weird and funky and a little bit deep sometimes. There's a
That's so
range.
sweet.
I don't know.
Depends on the card, right? No.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Cecily. This has been so fun. Thanks for indulging my tarot resistance. It
Thank
makes me like
you.
excited because I know that for a lot of people, tarot has been like such a game changer. But I'm loving the perspective for like people who are resistant to outside rules. I'm like, oh, but I can see how it would work so well for me, like not having to change and not be less of a like, you can't tell me what to do kind of person, and being like, oh, but it would work so well for creative projects, and oh, it would work so well for communicating with the spirit of my business and like that kind of stuff versus like telling me what I feel. I know what I feel.
Yeah, there's just so much possibility with it, and you can use it how you want. There's so much freedom and so much space to play and explore. And we don't have to treat it like our bossy dad, like it can be our friend. So, yeah, use it how you love it. And thank you so much for having me on this show. I really appreciate it.
Any final words of wisdom or final messages for everyone here?
What's coming up is just a reminder that it's the year of the Hermit because when you add 2 and 0 and 2 and 5, you get 9, which is the Hermit's number. So, that doesn't mean like stay in your house and don't talk to anyone, but it also could mean like not letting ourselves get so distracted by the noise out in the world, really going deeper with our own wisdom and intuition, walking our own path, being our weird old bearded selves. So I guess I'll offer that.